Chapter 11. Huh? Rain? I noticed it while entering the central garden from the back garden of the biology laboratory. It seemed like rain began falling at some point. The rain wasn't too hard, but it was strong enough for sounds of it hitting the trees and grass to be heard. But this level of rain won't be enough to stop me. As the cold rain engulfed my body, I aimed towards the lined-up school buildings and dashed off from the East District's central garden. Due to either the rain or because it was possibly during lecturing hours, there weren't many students around in the central garden. Either way, there were students running as if fleeing from the rain, and others who were calmly walking under umbrellas. As I ran ahead at full speed without any kind of protection from the elements, I must have gotten some odd looks towards my direction. This kind of thing would normally have nothing to do with me, but for some reason this particular time, I felt a bit annoyed. I felt a violent irritation develop as those people standing from a safe place watched me, as if examining some kind of swelling tumor. Even so, I continued to tell myself that it had nothing to do with me, as I ran straight through the central garden. At that rate, I eventually exited the East District and ended up at the Central Plaza, and then, once again, I caught sight of groups of students. Most likely they were heading back to their dormitories in the South District. Different colored umbrellas in hand, they seemed to enjoy chatting with each other as they slowly walked down the pavement. Glancing at them from the back of my eye, I dashed off from the pavement. There probably isn't any clear-cut road leading to the North District's ex-school building, so unless I cut through the Central Plaza, I won't be able to proceed. The grass at my feet was wet, and there were puddles developing here and there as well. Reaching the now half-vacant North District, my figure soon disappeared from other people's vision, seeing how there wouldn't even be many people in this area on a rainy day like this. The grass at my feet became more and more bare as I proceeded, and the number of trees began to decrease as well. Eventually, the land presented itself to be almost like a wasteland. After progressing through the wasteland for a bit, an artificial structure came into view. I see. As I looked up at the building, I began to slow down my running pace. Hope's Peak Academy's ex-school building. Just looking at its solemn appearance didn't give the impression that it was some abandoned building, but not having done so for quite a while, I checked out my Ryoko Otonashi memory notebook. It seemed that this building had already fulfilled its role at most half a year ago. If that was true, then it wouldn't be strange for this building to still seem like it was used not too long ago. But the tall fences that surrounded the building seemed to shout out that it was already finished. Plates were even stuck on the fences detailing Hope's Peak Academy North District Plan Construction Land. Do not enter. While straightening out my unsteady breath, I walked at a slow pace around the fence. To enter the ex-school building, it seemed that there was no other way than to climb over these, but then, once again, I could feel that itchiness in my head. Still not used to it, my face grimaced, and then suddenly a thought floated into my head. Speaking of which, I remember hearing that there were security guards around this area. Even though I didn't look at my notebook, I remembered that. Surprised by those turn of events, I came to a halt without thinking, and then another wave of surprise washed over me. A number of security guards surrounded me. Eh? Huh? In a panic, I frantically looked around me, speechless and emotionless, almost like if they were lifeless mannequins. All they were doing was simply looking straight at me. I'm not really anyone suspicious or anything. Wait, what? Without listening to my excuses, the security guards split up and dispersed. Ignoring what should have been an obvious intruder, they continued their patrol and left. Eh? Huh? Being left behind, I stood there shocked speechless, and then met eyes with the only remaining security guard. He's young? The face under the helmet was of a high schooler's, no matter how you looked at it. His mouth twisted into something like a smile, and he brought out a shining object. It was a medal. That medal had a bear mascot engraved upon it. It was half white and half black. It was a peculiar bear mascot. If I recall correctly, it was called Monokuma. It happened again. Without even looking back at the notebook, that thought floated up into my head by itself. It was almost like someone else's thought was pushed into my head. It was an eerie sensation. Is this what remembering is? But this wasn't the time to be analyzing myself. Suddenly, the right arm of the security guard unexpectedly extended outward. It seemed like he was pointing to something with that right arm. Following that direction with my eyes, I was led to a small opening one could crawl into between the fences. But why would a security guard tell me something like that? The moment I returned my eyes towards the security guard, he was already walking away. Not exactly sure why, I absent-mindedly gazed at his figure moving farther and farther away, as another thought suddenly floated into my brain again. It looked like I remembered yet another thing. In the end, everyone is just conveniently moving along the scenario. Suddenly, I felt some kind of heavy fear pressing on me from the back of my head. But it'll be alright. I desperately convinced myself. Anyway, if it's to meet Matsuda, then everything will be alright. That's what I believed. I believed in Matsuda. I believed in my feelings for Matsuda. I believed in the world of myself and Matsuda. By earnestly believing in him, I blew away all my uneasiness, and then moved forward with renewed vigor.